Welcome. What a great showing. What a difference from last year. I hope that goes for everybody, from writers to authors to editors to illustrators to cover artists, to everybody. That over the last year you've seen what's possible. You've seen better for yourself. You've seen better for your families. And that's what we're all about. We're here. We're a not-for-profit. We don't make any money off this, but look at this venue. How about this, huh? I want to thank the volunteers for their help, making sure everybody got registered, got their swag. I want to thank the donors, those folks who provided the prizes that we'll award in the raffles. We have the badge raffle, your number on the badge. And then we have the chair sitter raffle for those folks sitting here. Reedsy, we have Find Away Voices, we have Kindlepreneur, KDP Rocket. We have so many other prizes from good folks out there. Give them a hand. What is 20 Books to 50K? 20 Books to 50K was Michael Anderle's brainchild about what it takes to retire in Cabo. It really is that simple. How many books do you have to sell each day in, day out, in order to retire comfortably in Cabo? 35,000 is all you need. 50,000 make it great. You might be able to go out to eat once or twice a week. But it became so much more than that. It became a symbol of hope, a beacon for authors who always wanted to write a book and weren't sure what to do with it. I've written a book, now what do I do? How do you sell that book? How do you sell the next book? How do you sell all those other books that you wrote and they're sitting there? And that's what 20 Books of 50K has become. It's become a way for authors to help other authors sell books, to become more than just you. Like we say, a rising tide lifts all boats. It's not just us. And Michael and I were up here talking earlier. It's about the energy. You get more if you give more. And this is not for profit. $129. Look at this venue. That's all it was. Next year we got rooms for $42. $42 a night. We don't think you need to spend a lot of money to be able to make money. You have to tell a good story. You have to have a good blurb. You have to have a good cover. Does it have to be great? Does it have to be perfect? Perfect is such a relative point. Don't get wrapped around perfect. Get wrapped around a good story told in a great way. Do that and sell a shit ton of them. I'm sure I'm driving Ira and Jamie nuts walking back and forth, but I'm just preparing them for when Brian Meeks comes up here.
You're all good.
Okay, I'll talk in a little bit on motivation. I need to start working on that presentation. So let me introduce Michael Anderle.
That fucker did this to me last year. Same thing last year. We're going to talk 15 minutes. You might get 5. We'll come back and do it. 2 minutes up here, back and forth, gone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Last year, when I walked into that presentation, the room that we had over there, I just turned around and walked back out because I'm like, that's really large. I usually don't have major problems talking to a group of people. But when I came in here this morning, I looked around and I was impressed. And I'm like, man, what have we all done together? This isn't one person, anything else. But to some degree, actually, this is one person. It's Craig Martelle. Wow. He asked one time, he said, and I need to explain this, and certainly if anyone's watching out on the live stream as well, everyone that comes to me and says, Mike, can I speak next year? Or Mike, can we have this on one of the sidebar quotes? Mike, can we do this? I can guarantee you, everyone who told me this said, go talk to Craig Martelle. And the reason is because we have an agreement, and that agreement is I will show up. I will be happy to talk. I'll be here to explain anything and everything I can. But so long as I leave the decisions to him and I don't get in his way, I don't have to work. So I'm sorry, that's going to be beyond anything that anyone's willing to give me to try to do that. This is not happening. So a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about, and it goes a little bit perhaps into what Craig was going to say a little bit before, but I'm aware of John Hindmarsh, 79 years old, selling books. Is there anyone older than 79 selling books here? Am I missing anybody? Oh, over here? Wow, there's pointing, there's a shit ton of all pointing. Okay, I can't see who it is. Please stand up. Oh, gentlemen. And how old? So, I didn't catch how old. How old was that?
He said he's a writer, he lies.
Oh. Okay, 83. I told John earlier, I said, hey, do I have permission to talk about you and your age? He said, yes. I said, you're like 70, 89, right? He goes, no, I'm 79. I'm almost 80. And I said, good. We're going to do that like people who go, I'm 4, I'm 80. So we're going to do that. But part of that is to explain to everybody, you're never too old to be able to do our profession, to be able to express a story. And I want to encourage you, whether you're less than that, 20s, 30s, you have a great opportunity here. But myself, I didn't start till I was like 47, 48. That's the time range I started at. And so you have this in you. And I've talked to multiple people. If you ask Martha Carr, she was working 30 years to get prepared to be an overnight success in a year. So work that. But right now, I want to make something a little bit different. I want to change one person's life just a little. I'd like to ask Kaylee Lawson to come up here. Kaylee is 9 years old. Kaylee is the youngest author collaborator with LMBPN. And we are so very proud to be able to offer her a little plaque to show this. Thank you for being the youngest author award, Kaylee Sienna Lawson.
How many books does she have?
4, 7. She's actually got a few, so 2 out and 5 on the way. Her mom, Haley Lawson, is a prolific writer. She does a lot of integration. She's a publisher as well, but she's, training her daughter up in what she knows. Her daughter exhibited interest in joining that, so there we go. And I thought, we asked Haley first, obviously, if we could do this. And but I just, as a early writer myself, back in high school, I did something, I put it up there, and it got horrible remarks. 1, 2, 1, 2. Wish those fuckers could see me now. But it would have meant so much to me if I had enough guts to actually be up there and do something and then have someone say it, help encourage me to continue forward. And so we're here to encourage you. Yes, we have some amazing speakers, and I'm so very proud and admirable for them because they come here, they don't do it, there's no dime, we don't pay anything to them, right? And so they do that of their own time and will and willingness to give back. And so, and I just lost where I was going because I was a little, I came in here, I was amazed, and I saw upstairs with all those TVs and things, and I'm like, holy crap. But moving forward, the biggest opportunity you have is to meet people here. Do that. If you have to miss something, especially if it's here on the main stage, and I'm sorry for all of us that are going to be on the main stage, we have it live streamed. It's going to be recorded. But if you're in a major talk with somebody, that's probably more important. I can tell you that, yes, I didn't make any money coming here last year, but I met people that helped me propel over $100,000 in sales over the next 12 months. And I think that multiple people would say that from when they left. So we always encourage you, meet people, network. It is the most important part of being here. There you go. Your turn. Go ahead, say it.
What a sandy little butthole. That's payback for last year. He was supposed to take 20 minutes. Then again, so was I, and I took 4. I want to talk about motivation and talk about how you approach your writing. Because it's hard. Writing a book is hard. It's you and your computer. You're sitting there. Some people write on a notebook. However you turn your thoughts into a story is a personal effort. It doesn't always flow well. You got a great scene, you jam it out, you get 3,000 words in 2 hours, and you're cheering, and then you've got to set up the next scene, and it's boring as hell. And it's not, but you have to do it. The readers need that. You have to present that, paint that picture for them in which the next scene happens. That isn't always sexy. It isn't always great. Sometimes it's hard. And it's just you. It's just you and your computer. But what you find here, 20 books to 50K, is you have other people sharing that same burden who are willing to help you move forward. And so you post something, hey, what's going on? Check it out. I'm taking a break. Somebody jumps in, hey, loved your last book. Great story. And then comments, Kindle. You sell on Kindle, you can always go in and take a look and see if passages that were highlighted. I saw one posted with thousands of highlighted passages. That's cool. That's people reading your book and saying, hey, I like this. It's the modern yellow highlighter. I mean, we never got to see those yellow highlighters in paperback books, but we can see them now thanks to digital technology. That's pretty neat. Your thoughts are now people's quotes. When you're sitting there and you're looking at your computer and you see your sales for your last book made $2 over the last week, do you keep writing?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Nothing sells the last book like the next book. That's what I say. And you can always go back and fix the last book. My first book, I sold 56 copies. My dad's here. I think he's in the back somewhere. And I think he bought 53 of them. And he's my biggest fan. Appreciate that. But that story, it was picked up by TradPub. So I unpublished that book. And TradPub published it. They're like, hey, you need a new cover. I was good with that. I made the cover out of a picture and PowerPoint myself. The title, It's Not Enough to Just Exist, which resonated really well with girls 13 to 17. It was a post-apocalyptic survival book, so if you want that title, it's available because I unpublished it and I didn't use that anymore. But that End Times Alaska, they changed it. It became a best-selling series. It was first person. It was my first book. It became a four-book series. And I could have looked at that and said 56, Dad buying 53. Okay, I suck. I'm not good as a writer. But it only took a few. My dad passed them out at H&R Block where he works. And he got great comments. He's like, hey, people really enjoyed your story. When's the next book coming out? That's the motivation I needed. That, hey, let me write that next book. But let me write one that I want. And we'll work that way. So I wrote a Gamma World adventure, painted on a different planet, in the flavor of Anne McCaffrey, because that's what I liked. I tell people, write what you know. Other people say, don't write what you know. You need to be take yourself out of your comfort zone. Well, I was 52 years old and I hadn't written anything, so anything I was writing was out of my comfort zone. So I was good with that. I just liked the story, so I went with that. Don't want to go past the white line and get in trouble. And that series did pretty well. But it did really, really well this summer. 2 years, a little over 2 years after it was published. Why? Because Amazon Prime sent me an email out of the blue, hey, we want to put your book 1 in your free trader series on Amazon Prime. Oh, okay. I was good with selling a couple copies a week. And all of a sudden, I'm getting 20,000 page reads a day and selling 20 or 30 books a day of a series that was 2 years old on the first book. And needless to say, with the read-through, now I'm making good money. I had a BookBub featured deal, lucky number 69. Took my 69th try before getting a featured deal. on the successor to the Free Trader series. And then I did all the numbers and calculated everything. And the Amazon Prime deal made more than the BookBub featured deal. On a series that was over 2 years old. Made a lot of money off that because it was there. I don't think it's my best work, because as you look back, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I wrote that. Well, I try to get better with each new word. And that's motivation. Look at this series. I know I write better now, so I should be able to sell better. And they do. They sell better now. The new series, they come out. I've got a good cadre of fans. But it took a solid 3 years. Nothing happens overnight. The overnight success, that's not us. We don't know how to do that. We don't know how to sell 1 million copies of your first book. I don't know. I'm at a little over 250,000 sales. Michael is over 1 million sales. A little bit. Okay, a lot. But 250,000, okay, it's not great. I have some 55, 70 titles, 90 titles, I don't know. I have a lot of titles. But 20 books to 50K, $7.50 per title per day for 20 titles is 50 grand. That's not bad. And what's it take? Okay, you might have one book that only sells $1 worth, but you have that other book that sells 12. And there you are. I think I'm talking about motivation, right? But don't get demotivated on that book that just sold 2 copies in the last month. Why isn't it selling? I'm getting help. Why isn't it selling? And what's it take to move that next one forward? I haven't gone back and redone anything with my Free Trader 1, and that is my flagship book that has sold tens of thousands of dollars worth, and there it was. It was the second book I ever wrote. It just shows what can happen if you stick with it. Because people who read my current stuff, who just dive in and find it, they go back and they say, hey, I love that series. It's like, yeah, but that's not my best writing. A good story will carry the day. It's edited, so it doesn't have typos and stuff, but it's still a good story, not written in a great way. But it still resonates, and the only person who matters is the fan willing to pay for your work. Your writers group, you can get feedback from them, but if you get feedback from your fans who are buying your books, that matters more. That's where the true measure of your success, especially when it comes to 20 books to 50K. If you want a literary award, once again, hey, look at us. We got Jack. So, if you want a literary, we don't know how to do that. We can put books up and make them competitive, but our real goal is we want to sell books. We want to sell books. We want to bring in fans. Our target is 100,000 fans, that when we release a new book, we get 100,000 sales. Then we don't have to release 5 books a week. Make it a little, okay, maybe we will. But the motivation is, it takes a lot of steps to get there. You got to keep writing, and honestly, nothing sells the last book like the next book. Who had a release this week? Who released a book this week? Look at that shit, huh?
Excellent.
I'm seeing probably 30 people raising their hands, at least. I had a release yesterday, 3 weeks to the day after the previous release. It was book 2 in that series. And book 1 on Sunday finally fell out of the top 1,000. Well, yesterday with the new release, it jumped back down to 800. Nothing sells the last book like the next book. And especially if you give that with that frequency. And as you move along, you're going to find what resonates with your fans better. One thing, my first 4 books were in 3 different genres. We're not prescriptive. We don't tell you what to do, but don't do that.
Let me jump in real quick. You keep your thought. I want to ask this question. How many here have not published a book yet? Okay. Actually, that's fewer than I thought. How many people here believe you can do more than $10,000 in 1 month with your books? Okay. Everybody who has concerns, take a look around. Now, how many believe more than 100,000 in a month? Okay. Put them down. If you're willing to admit it, how many of you do more than 100,000 in a month? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's just the ones I can see. It is so important to get that barrier to what you can do out of your mind. Do not believe you can't do 100,000. I did $338 my first month. I went over 3,000 the second, over 10,000 in the third, and then I believed. And I wrote like a motherfucker. Because there's nothing that makes you get up to write like more money in the morning. That's right, show me the money. Well, it's part of it, and people sometimes ask, they go, what is this group about? It's in the name. I don't hide what my mountain was. My mountain was to make money and retire my wife, who I didn't realize didn't want to be retired, down in Cabo. And so I'll let you go back, but I'll probably jump in from time to time as I remember the stuff I thought I wanted to say earlier and then forgot.
Cool, I appreciate it. The biggest thing is you have to believe. You have to believe what you're capable of. And you know that. If you've written a book, that already puts you in the top 1/10 of 1% of everybody who said, yeah, I always thought about writing a book. Well, they actually did. That's not easy. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do until you do it, and then you start working the sales and marketing, and you realize it's only half the battle. Half. But you can get there. I'm not that good at marketing. I do okay. My marketing is a velocity. Quantity has a quality all its own. Now, I think my words are better. I've got over 3 million published words. I think they're better. They're better now. I know they are, because I look back and I cringe. But the readers are good with those first words because of the story. And the current words, they like those too. So it's a win-win. So every new book, especially since you keep it in the same genre, is a win. Finding those readers, if you genre hop, some readers will come with you, but a certain amount won't. If you're looking at building that pyramid from the bottom up, making it nice and wide at the top, you need to get more readers each time instead of starting over. You don't want a bunch of pillars of readers. You can do that, but then you need to write twice as much. If you want to publish cozy mysteries, that's cool. But if you want to write military sci-fi, that's cool too, but those are two separate and distinct readerships.
He's thinking about that.
I'm not thinking about it. I'm going to do that. I'm publishing 24 cozy mysteries next year. But it's a different readership. It's my generation, because it's across a Scooby-Doo and a Hardy Boys. I know. Monster. Look for Monster Case Files.
You need help here? Just ask.
Did you write 100 words yet? Come on. Motivation. I know there's people that suffer from depression. I know there's people that have a lot of other stuff going on in their lives. They have a lot of distractions. I applaud those folks, especially with new babies. I can't imagine. I got to spend 2 hours with a new baby. Remember last year? My brother had just had a stroke, and then my sister-in-law had a heart attack a couple days into the conference. Well, she passed away about 3 weeks ago. And we all went back for the funeral. Well, her latest grandchild, was born the day before she passed away. So I got to spend a few hours with that little baby, and I can't imagine. And I wasn't responsible for anything. I was just physically there, and I can't imagine trying to write, and then also being responsible for a new human, or 3, and a dog. And 4 cats. How do you stay motivated? Those folks, they get up 100 words, 1,000 words in the morning. They're tired, and they produce, and then go on with their day. Next day, get up 1,000 words. 1,000 words a day. If you're aligned, you're focused with your story, you could do that in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And 365,000 words later, you've got 6 books. Working just that 45 minutes a day. You subcontract your editing, you get that out, somebody takes care of the editing, you review. 6 books. 6 books a year is goddamn good. And you can make damn good money off 6 books a year. You can make good money off 4 books a year.
One thing I'd like to interject real quick. We hear in 20 Books, we read, we watch people look at some of those who are doing just unbelievable amount of writing per day. We don't stop them from saying that because it is something to be aware of what can be done. But realize, especially if you look at, say, someone like myself and my success, I had my own company. Therefore, my time was my own. I happened to be doing it in internet marketing and sales. So I already understood the marketing aspect of what's going on. My kids, what we had, our kids were sophomores, juniors, right in that age. You can't compare yourself to others. Don't. It's not helping you. It's not helping your mind. You just compare yourself to what you're doing, and then you allow yourself to see, how did someone else get past it? I was speaking to my oldest, who's written a series now with me, and he's going through the same stuff so many of you have already gone through and so many of you might go through. And I'm having to express to him, look, when you encounter these mental challenges, you have to give yourself time to breathe. It's going to happen. You're not doing anything unique. You're not having to suffer for your art. We all go through it. But you have to dig deep because those words aren't going to come out if you don't. And so whatever it is, once again, there's always a story behind why that person can do fantastic. Don't feel less because your experience isn't the same.
That's a great point, Michael. It's you only compare yourself against yourself. Because we have some incredible authors who put 10 to 20,000 words a day, every day, religiously on the page. They are the exception. Don't compare yourself to the exception. And those folks, great, good on them, great words, publish the books, and move on. If you're 1,000 words a day, if you're 500 words a day. John Grisham, he did pretty well, and his goal was 1,000 words a day. Turned out pretty well for him. You tell a good story, you tell a great story, and everything else will come together. Focus on the story, learn your craft, and we don't really focus on craft here. We have some breakout sessions for craft. But generally, it's about selling the books. You improve your words, work with those folks you need to improve your words, and then get out there and get that book in front of people. Sell it, get your newsletter cranking or not, use a blog, whatever you need to do to engage with your fans. But understand they're there. Find those fans. We don't need, it's important to have external validation. You need somebody to tell you you're doing okay. I pay my wife for that. But you're home alone, you're there. The cats love you regardless as long as you feed them. But you need to know that you're doing okay, because motivation comes from, it has to come from inside. You need to be self-driven, especially as an independent author. Only you are going to sit there and jam the words. Nobody else. If you don't put them down, they're not going to get down. And then what's that next step? Okay, I wrote the words. What the hell? This sucks. Well, that's beta readers, fans. Give them snippets. There are people, Lindsay Baroker, I think she's here somewhere.
Where? Oh, there she is.
There she is. Lindsay writes a chapter and shares a chapter at a time with her fans. So she's getting that validation as she goes. So if she needs to change something, she can adjust it. And look at that. Hey, when's the next chapter coming out? Or, hey, this one's really off. It threw me off the story. Now you can fix it as you go. And she gets her end product out, and the turnaround time at that point is pretty fast. But that validation, even if it's only 2 fans, as long as they're not psychopaths, 2 fans, and then 4 fans, or like my dad. Okay, you expect your dad to say, hey, it's a good book. But dad's like, no, hey, I shared it with these people who are reading it while I'm doing their taxes, and they enjoy it.
That's not really saying a whole lot. Let's see, would you like me to watch me do your taxes or read a book?
Captive audience, yeah. But that validation, hey, they like your books. I'll share a story. My sister called Cox Help Desk. Who hasn't done that, right? and spent forever on hold. So she's talking to Cox Help Desk, And she said, don't send that to me. I'm not going to be here next week. I'm going to a convention. My brother's running an author convention. Well, what's his name? This woman was reading my books. Cox Help Desk. That kind of stuff is still new to me. It's still rare. Only 250,000 copies of a lot of books. So it's not a lot of readers. I mean, we hope we're building each day. Okay, we're yellow. All right, cool. Thanks, Jamie. We made it to yellow. But that kind of motivation, what does it for you? If you have not published a book, how do you keep writing? Because you're here. You're joining us. Get that book. Write that end. Publish that. Post that end post in the Facebook group. 20 books at 50K. The end, my first book. We want to see that. We want to celebrate with you that you got that first book done. Go to the editors. Find an editor that you can work with. Get it edited and move on. Can't afford an editor? Find a few people to share with. Hey, help read this for me. I'll read yours, you read mine.
It's all about being able to hack what you need to do. A couple of things that crossed my mind as Craig was talking. I tend to get on a rant about a couple of things. You might have seen them. One of them is #probably. I am very open-minded, but I really suggest you never come to me and tell me that there's only one way to be successful. I probably won't come back politely. And I want you to take that with you. There are multiple ways. My way is not the only way to be successful. I've seen so many others that are available. So #probably, when someone tells you, you need to do it this way, too many of these people, and we've even seen them in our group, and we went back and looked, and some of the admins are like, yeah, you're out of here. They'll tell you, this is how you have to do it. You go find out, and they have no books. Wait, well, how do you know? Well, they picked it up on some other group, and they're just feeling important by doing it. Talk to the people. As one person whose names and faces are going to escape me, so thank you. I love to talk to all of you. Chances are I'm not going to remember your name. But talk to them. Ask them, why? How did that work? Get the story behind the story. I can tell you what we did last year and what worked and what didn't and how it's changed already this year. We can talk these things out. We're happy to do it. But, do put that in there. I can't encourage you enough to listen and make up your own mind based on what your mountaintop is. You can talk now.
Join, if you haven't finished a book, haven't published a book, join us. Finish that book and hit publish. Even if you don't think it's ready, and especially if you don't think it's perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Only the readers determine if it's perfect. And that's only perfect to them. And everyone will have a different experience. Look at the movie, The Never-Ending Story. It was different for everyone who read it. It was unique. One great Motel 6. Motel 6, when they wanted to say, well, let's run a survey and see how people appreciate our motel. And the executive leadership said, no, we don't need to do that. All we need to do is repeat customers. If somebody comes back, that's the only testimonial we need. So if you have read-through, if somebody reads your second book, that's the only testimonial you need that the first book was okay. If you publish that first book, sell 100 copies, you publish the second book and you sell 10 copies, there may be a problem with that first book.
And as a note, typically we see anywhere from 60 on the low side to 70 to 80% of read-through, especially that 70 to 80, typically means you're going to have a very powerful.
And that's from the first to the second book, which usually that's the biggest drop-off. Going to that third book, third to 4 or 5, you should be in the 90s. But that's a measure. Take a look and see why it is. If you publish the first book, you didn't have a newsletter, and then you publish the second book 6 months later, and you're only getting a 10% read, it might be because you lost all your readers over that time. You didn't connect with them, you didn't give them a blog, you don't have your website. So that could be the reason. Just there's all kinds of ways on why things happen. But if you publish one and you publish 2 3 weeks later, and 2 only has a 10% read-through, there's an issue with 1. Find out what it is. Ask the readers. They're willing to share. Readers get involved with the stories. One thing Michael Anderle taught me is don't do the forward kind of thing in your book. Do the author notes and have a conversation with your readers. Hey, tell me what you liked about this story. Who's your favorite character? what do you think happens next? Somebody tells you something great. Hey, that's exactly it.
That's how you get more stories out. Oh, really? Great. Wow.
But that's what once you start getting those fans, and once you sold one book, you have one fan. Find out what they liked about it. And then 10 become 100, 100 become 1,000. But you can't get that 1,000 until you get those books out. With no book, it's hard to have fans. And people do get fans. Hey, I'm going to write this book, and they push the premise, and people jump on board. Yeah, I'd like to read that story. Cool. Well, then write that goddamn story. Get it down and publish it, and then sell it.
I always ask the question, this happened to me. How many people here were reading voraciously and go, I could write this well? So, holy crap. Oh my gosh. Okay, that had to easily be 70% of the audience? Okay, I didn't expect that response.
That was one of my motivations. I read a series, I loved the story, but I just didn't like the writing. And I'm like, I got to be able to write better than this. My first one.
So we appreciate all of you crappy authors, because apparently you've really pushed us.
I want to leave you with one thing. Just believe in yourself. If you can get those words down, that puts you ahead of everybody else who said, I always wanted to write a book. When you tell somebody, yes, I'm an author, if you sold one copy, you're a professional author. I'm a professional author. Hey, well, I have a day job, but I'm still a professional author. And first thing people will say is, hey, I've always wanted to write a book. You come back with, why don't you? What's holding you back? Too hard. Okay. Well, what's that say about you who did write the book? You overcame that difficulty. And that's what your motivation goes to. And then do it again and again. And you'll find, I saw a post this morning on 20 Books at 50K. Somebody took 10 years to write their first book and 3 months to write that second book. Even if you're gifted at something, you still need to practice and work at it. That's what makes the good athletes great. They all have coaches. Even the top golfers, they all have coaches. Authors, you're here. Your coaches are your fans. Your coaches are some fellow authors. You might have a developmental editor that's awesome. That's a coach. You might have a reader who is invested in you, but isn't a super fan, isn't going to just butter your muffin for no reason. They're telling you, hey, this is a great story. This part drags a little. Well, how do you fix it? Go from good to great. Become the author you think you can be. And you can be a great author. Because look at this. Look at the people here. You saw people making $100,000 a month. There's a lot of people. There's almost 100 people here who have claimed that they're making $100,000 a year. $10,000 a month. It may seem insurmountable until you make it. And you're like, shit, why didn't I make 15? Damn, look at that book. I got the one book that is still ranked 800s, 22 days after publication. Holy crap. How does that happen? And we're befuddled because we're not advertising it. It's just out there. So it works. Got a great cover, though, man. Great cover. Shout out to Luca Oliastri.
One of the things that I did the very first, in 2016, I went to a convention in Austin. It was a Smarter Artist Summit. And so I will always be appreciative to Sean, Johnny, and Dave for putting that on and allowing me to meet people who I felt were my tribe. 48 years to be able to go into a room full of people and go, this is my people. These are my tribe. This is what we want you to feel. Craig and I were talking up here earlier before the start, and we said, we just want this to be a big party. I mean, that's what we get out of it, is your success. When you put up on 20 books, this is what my success is, that is all the payback I need, especially since I don't have to put this on.
1 minute.
Oh, bite me. There are representatives from Kobo here, Chrissy. There are representatives from Draft to Digital here, K-Lytics. I'm probably going to forget a bazillion names like you did. Take the time to meet them because they are part of who you need to engage with to further your publishing career. There are a couple of different things. You have people who are all authors. That's all they want to be. And if that's all you really want to be, then you need to find someone to help you do the publishing side, and they're probably right here because they spent the time and the money and the effort to push themselves to be here. Nothing gainsaying to those who couldn't make it. We want that. But your chance is here. Another piece of it is related to, you totally lost my train of thought, man. Fine. Talk to me later, I'll remember.
Amazon is here, BookBub is here,
Yes.
Find Away Voices is here, Publish Drive is here. We have a lot of representatives who can help you in your self-publishing business. And most importantly, we have authors in your genre, no matter what genre you are, on a cyberpunk like me and Michael. I want to thank you all for coming.
I'm not in erotica, just for the second record.
All. All.
Chuck Tingle. Yes.
Yeah, well, we talked about how to make that work. I want to thank you all for coming. I thank you all for believing in me that we could put on this conference and that you would benefit from it. People spent $1,000. People spent $5,000 to come here. We have people from the UK. Raise your hands. Represent. Australia. Where are you? Canada. Good deal. So many people came so far to this to give themselves a chance to learn and get a step up. I hope we deliver on that. Thank you very much. Half-hour break. And see you at 10:45.